today our flavor is pineapple black.
That's so good.
It's just so good. And our topic today is mental health.
So get ready for some depth, bub.
So if you're sensitive to that, please be warned and know that it may get a little deeper.
Yep.
So,
how do we really just dab?
Okay, we talked about this earlier.
It's a work in progress. You've been really good about your swearing. I haven't been.
So get it together. Okay, we have standards here. They may be low, but they are high.
We're talking about mental health. You're literally bringing someone's up. You're just bullying her.
Okay, so remember when I was talking about hypocrisy earlier? That's okay. Anyways,
we're gonna use I feel statements. Anna, I
feel personally attacked.
Okay, so let's start off with some stigmas of mental health.
And
the whole situation with what people associate people who may be going through depression or anxiety or things like that. Like, and I know personally, I am diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and ADHD, so I do have, and that's not to be like, actually, I'm special. It's just from my point of view, that is where I am coming from.
Yeah.
Where are you coming from? If you don't feel...
No, you're good. I have mental health in my family, and personally, I attend therapy regularly because we love a healthy queen. But personally, I had anxiety as a kid, but that's kind of, past now.
I'm not diagnosed with any like mental disorders or anything. Nothing like that. But I wasn't really gonna bring this up, but we're trying to be authentic here. We're full sending it. I did go through like a self-harm phase for like quite a few years, but I've gotten past that and I've found much better coping methods with life and everything.
Yes.
So that's where I stand. But
what about you?
My family has dealt with it a lot. My sister did a lot. So I dealt with that when I was younger. Didn't really understand it. Have come to sort of understand it just from like personal experiences. Not that I'm diagnosed or anything, as I said.
But like your experience with it.
Yeah, just sort of like, I feel like it's very surface level for me. Like, I have like pretty like deep thoughts, but it's never been like. I don't know how to say it. Like,
it's okay, and
the correct wording is so hard.
The only reason I brought that is just again like what we were talking about in previous episodes of perspective is very important.
This is where we're coming from.
And I just think, and I don't, it's hard to like talk about certain topics, and it's just important to know, whereas like one person may have a perspective of, because one thing I've always believed, and I'm not sure if you guys agree with this, is that going through, I have gone through depression, I am still going through depression, but seeing my friends in those states is much worse than anything that I could be going through myself. Watching your friend or your sibling or your mom or whatever going through something like that is one of the worst things for me personally. And like things like that where it's like perspective, it's a big thing.
It's so important.
Yeah.
And especially, but when people take the wrong perspective and people start associating stigmas with something where it's like, oh, if you have depression, you're going to have to be like an outsider or lonely or, where it's like, I'm extroverted.
You're so extroverted.
Yeah, and where it's like, and I like to go to parties and stuff like that, but all my friends will know this, like my mood switches very, very quickly. And it's not in like a bipolar fashion, it's more of like, it's when like I just need to go home and I just need to like and people have that just normally without like the depression aspect of it, it's just more of with like
just add something to it.
And a lot of times the difference between like just being sad and going through something and depression is that with depression a lot of times you don't have a reason for why you're upset or why you're sad, right? Where it's like that's why I could be in the middle of a party with my friends and I'll just be like I shut down. And it's whereas with like if you're sad, if your cat just died or something like that, where it's like that is not invalid. You are still upset. That is obviously going to struggle, but it's not the same with the perspective. I don't know, and you can't describe how it feels, but there is no reason to why you're feeling how you feel it.
I see that a lot with like, especially like being like in school with people who are always saying like, oh, I have a test today, like I have anxiety about it. And it's like, I get that like test anxiety is like a very real thing.
It's a thing. And then,
but
that's one of the most important things. It's like, it's valid, it's just different.
Yeah, exactly.
So I see a lot of people get anxiety and just feeling nervous, confused.
Yeah.
And like, I see.
That's a lot of confusion nowadays because
Yeah.
it's much more common, I think, with our generation because there's so much, pressure and like different factors, like
Yeah.
technology especially is like
Oh my
changing
goodness.
society in such a
Yes.
huge way.
That's like such a huge point for me because like if you look back, say like 50 years or however long, I haven't actually done research on this, so I wouldn't know. But like if you look back, people who would say like you went to go get like tested for say your anxiety or depression.
Yeah.
Like back then, they would have like thrown you in a mental
Yeah.
like home like
Yeah.
That was like
You would've-
1800s and stuff.
yeah.
So bad.
Yeah.
We learned
Really,
that,
I was
like,
not
it's
born
become
that age.
Yeah.
the lobotomy. Can we just talk about that?
Yeah, where it's like a huge,
Whoa.
which is like a hole in your head. If
Yeah.
for people who don't know.
In my global health class, it's like in like the 1800s, early 1900s, they were like, "Oh, you're like depressed or something? Well, what if we just like stick 2 giant needles in your eye sockets and then like swish around your frontal lobe? Maybe that'll fix it."
The thing is,
Yeah.
on that topic, it's chemistry.
Yeah.
It's your brain
Yeah.
chemicals. So basically, for my sake, not my sake, my circumstance, I lack serotonin in my brain. And serotonin, I got this lecture a while ago and I don't remember all of it. But it's basically serotonin. It helps your mood stabilize and make you like, I don't know exactly because it's been 2 or 3 years since I was diagnosed when I had the exact chemicals talked about. But with things like medication, what that's meant to do is it's supposed to balance that imbalance.
Yeah.
So like I do take medication for all of the things I just mentioned, and especially it's hard to tell, and that's one of the hardest things is because people, in order to feel validated, a lot of times people with mental illness feel like they have to take medication, which isn't the case.
It doesn't always work for everyone.
It doesn't. And the
Every
thing is-
situation is so different.
Yeah, and I take it, but the only difference I feel is like, I do take Adderall for ADHD, and that's a stimulant, so it's noticeable when I do when I take it and when I don't take it, because one day I may be like pointing at a squirrel out the window, and the other day I might be working, it's something like that. But with medication for depression and anxiety, it's not immediate. You have to,
Isn't it like over time of buildup?
It's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks where you get that buffer zone. But the thing is, that's another thing where if we have so much technology, we have so much medical stuff, why can't we figure out a better way to help this? Because there's anxiety pills that I have that are emergency ones that like basically just like shut you down,
Yeah.
but it makes you numb and you can't feel it, not like physically, mentally, and
Yeah.
it's trapping you in that environment more of, and I don't find it helpful. Some people do, and that's fine, and there's pills that like stronger like Xanax, but those things are used recreational, like for and like I was talking about Adderall, right? That's used recreational,
Yeah.
and because of the reason why it's used that way, like it affects how I get it, right? Because like I have a pill for every certain day and like whatnot, and that makes it really hard, and it's super expensive. Which is a whole other thing, but because we're focusing on mental health right now, well,
That's a different can of worms.
good for that. But for you guys, what do you think, or what have you experienced that causes that stress with that mental health, like personally for you guys?
I definitely feel like social media has been such a huge part of it, which is sort of why I went back to that 1800s, like you would have been thrown into a mental hospital. Like it's so much more open now, and that's why a lot of people I think get it confused, is because people talk about it all the time and actually talk about the feelings that go along with it.
That's so good, because I feel like one of the necessary ways that we can destigmatize mental health so much is by talking about it, and like by being open about our experiences with self-harm and like the people we have in our family or ourselves who have mental health. It's so important to just talk about the experience, because knowledge comes with like understanding and
And so
it's hard. It's hard to take that step and actually talk about it.
It's
because you're like, oh gosh, what if I get judged? What if people are like,
Right.
oh, like so and so has like depression or
You
something?
know what the biggest thing for me is that people will go immediately to, oh, she's trying to get attention. And
Yeah,
the
I
thing
see
is,
that a lot.
And I think that's a problem that social media, like, I
Yeah.
feel like in ways social media has really helped to bring awareness and start conversations.
Yeah, but it's also because
Yeah.
when you look back on it, like, especially if you talk about like in a school setting and people getting bullied, like you used to go home and get away from it and just be able to like leave it behind.
Right.
But now since there's this social media aspect, you can get bullied at school still, but a lot of it's online. Like you can't get away from it. It's everywhere you go.
and a lot of it's like snide comments, like just like
Under
people
your breath.
and people who won't like say, because like things like just the way that I present myself and the way that I am very, very public on my Instagram about like certain issues and certain things I'm passionate about, it's things like where people will comment on, like I posted a picture of me with a shirt that said women don't owe you crap, but not the word crap, but different word. And this guy who has he told in 7th grade, he told me to jump out the window and let a bus run over me.
Oh my goodness.
And like this guy who I haven't talked in years, and like he just commented, oh well, that's right, and then he deleted it later because I think he realized how, because it's like people like that being petty, and it's like you obviously don't agree with my point. Why would you comment like, oh well, I guess that's right? You're just trying to be like a jerk. It's just absolutely ridiculous because it's so. And that was a post where I didn't even, my caption was Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
God forbid! Like, it's more of like, while my shirt, yes, maybe a little tad bit aggressive, but like,
it's, speak in your opinion.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be able to wear it to school because it has a cuss word on it, but, and it's, again, aggressive, but it's talking about that kind of stuff, and like, there's certain stuff that I'm still not ready to talk about with mental health and trauma, and that's fine, right, where it's like, there's like certain things that like,
there's certain steps you have to take to be able to
come to terms with it yourself, and then like being able to formulate the words I think are so important because your words are so powerful, and I feel like as a society we've kind of lost that today. So just being able to like express it and then being able to put it forward.
I think that really helps. Like I find writing, like I said earlier.
I wrote a poetry book. Yeah.
I love poetry. Like I love writing, and I feel like that's like what I find very therapeutic.
Yeah,
like to me, it's just like writing.
And like a lot of people have different things, and one reason social media I think has done some good for the whole of mental health and the stigma around it. Like if you've ever noticed, there was a post a while back. It sort of went viral about how like an option other than self-harming is like drawing, like where you would self-harm.
You paint. It's
And like I don't think it would have gotten as big as it was and have helped so many people if it wasn't on social media. So like there's so much good and so much
there's
bad.
Pros and cons.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's different with what I think one of the biggest reasons why people are scared to talk about things is like different people's perspective, like we talked about previously, right? With like the different point of views and that kind of stuff, right? Where it's like, I do have a past and I'm still currently struggling with like self-harm stuff, and people like will come up to you and like point to things and be like, what is that from? Why do you have this on you? Why do you have that? People, and it's like, I know some people have a hard time with social cues, and that's obviously fine with other different illnesses that may come along with that, and that's obviously one thing. But if it's to a point where like people will make fun of it in class and be like, like talking, like that's happened to me personally, where it's like pointing out certain things, like, and it's like something that you don't, it's like I'm not quite like,
I don't want to, like it's a comfort level of sharing it too.
Well, yeah, and I like
some people, I'm fine with it. Some people I'm like,
yeah,
I don't really want to share
exactly.
it with you.
And it's definitely like a relationship thing. Like if you have a good relationship with someone, like it's easier to talk about than if you just meet someone and they like you said, like point something out. It's like I don't want to talk to you.
Not exactly a good conversation.
It's not, and it's not like you're not trying. It's just unnecessary, especially.
It's insensitive.
It's so bad because it's like. Is that a characteristic of me? Yes. Is it part of my past? Is it part of my future? Is it part of my present? Yes, but like that doesn't
define me as a person.
Yeah, and when people will ask like, why are you so passionate about this problem? Have you had I'm very, very, very passionate about like sexual assault and that kind of stuff, and people will ask me, well, have you had that happen to you? That's absolutely not okay to ask.
No.
Like ever.
I think it's so important to talk about again because like by talking about it, we get educated and we get the knowledge, and with that the understanding. But it's also the comfort level. It's like, it's like, maybe I want to know about this thing I see on someone, but I'm like, I want them to be comfortable sharing it. I don't want to push for anything. I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. But like, I want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah. And that's fine, because I have had like different, like the other side of it, right, where it's like, I may have like seen different scars on my friend's arms, and then I'll like message, because what I do personally, I know that this is like, for me personally, I don't like when people approach about in person, because I am not like I don't want to like talk about it in person. I don't want to do that.
It's
and
harder.
people are always like, oh, well, in person is better. Not always.
Yeah.
Like, cause it takes some time to start to think about why, when people are asking you like, so I know like I've texted my friends before, but I haven't specifically said like, oh, I saw this. I've just been saying, hey, I love you. You're valid. Things like that. Where it's like, if you don't bring it up, they know why you're. Most of the time, you can tell where it's like when it's happened to me, I personally know why they're talking about it. I know what they saw, but they didn't. It's still triggering if you like talk about it because like I don't want to.
And that's okay.
And that should definitely be a valid thing. And I feel like there's a lot of people who like push that conversation.
Yeah.
And that's like I definitely have like people like ask me like, oh, like why are you upset today? And it's like
maybe I don't want to talk about
it.
But then they like keep pushing and they're like, oh, so do you like, am I not a good enough friend for you?
And then it's like, well
now you're not.
Like, you're the issue. And people are like, are you okay? Is this okay?
I think it's
fine. And they're like, you don't seem okay.
Yeah, it's like the constant pushing.
Well, now you're the problem.
It's like the constant pushing of people just like always wanting to know and always wanting to be in your business.
Well, they want validation from. It's like more of that. It's like feels like you're trying to prove that you have depression. Someone, why the?
Yeah, like do I need to prove that?
Do you want a contract? The thing is like,
do you want my diet? Like.
Well, because the thing is also that I also in school I have 504, which is a certain like not condition. It's just a plan that you can take, and I take an AP classes, which is advanced placement, and things like that. So it's hard to get around with some kind of that kind of stuff. But like I can get exceptions if like I'm having an issue. I can be like, okay, I need an extra day on this and things like that. With that, you do have to like provide like a psychiatrist note and things like that. But teachers still don't respect it. And I could sue them for that if I really wanted to. Like, not kidding. Like if you have a 504, that is, or is it IPD or I can't exactly remember what it's with learning disabilities. There's also a plan, and not to say any one is lesser than the other, but those ones are taken a lot more seriously sometimes, but they're both serious, but they have the same effects. Right? Because I can't focus a lot, and some people are like, oh, well, just because you don't want to. It's like, no, I can't stare at the paper right now.
It's my brain. It's brain. I think one of the most important things is like, there are so many causes today, but it all comes back to like, sometimes it's brain chemistry. Sometimes someone's brain is formed differently, and it like, serotonin levels, like things differ, and then that's not in anyone's control. God was just kind of like, let's just sprinkle it a little bit.
Let's have her be quirky and fun, and
let's have her be quirky.
that's depression is just quirky. No, that's not what I mean.
Yeah, but like I've noticed that there are a lot of like social normalities that are around like it's sort of
you're expected to look like one person.
You're expected to be like sad, and it's like no,
it's
not.
And like there's also like that whole thing, and it's also like they put you in a box sort of.
It's like
if you have depression, like why do you look so good? Like I have a lot of questions, or not like that wasn't like the right way to word it, but like there's a lot of people who ask questions about people with depression, and they're always like, but why? They have such a good life, and they're so pretty.
Oh my God!
You want to like there's a lot of people who ask those sort of questions, and I'm like, you don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know like you don't know how their brain takes certain situations, and you don't know everything like that. And it's like
you only see like I'm so passionate about so many different things, and it's like with some people I show that because I know like I'm a pretty I'm a pretty liberal Christian. I was like, whoa, I'm a pretty liberal Christian, so sometimes like I share certain things and I'm like, like you're gonna like help me understand this better, and you're gonna like support me in this, but then some people I'm like, I'm gonna be a little more reserved. I'm gonna keep.
You gotta know who you're talking to.
Exactly. You have to know your audience. Be like, I'm gonna keep this part of me just a little bit less, just in case, like I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to. Some people I just don't want to bring it up with because I don't want to get into a fight. And I'm not
here to fight.
And then there's this. It's not necessarily like a facade you put on or anything. It's just the different parts of you that you show the world, and it's like certain people get a certain part, and that's that's okay. So
Yeah.
they don't see the whole picture
Yeah.
and they don't understand every single aspect. Like your home life can be so different from your social life, and those
Exactly.
are very different.
And the thing is, like, I will acknowledge, just like we did in our first episode, I am very privileged, and I will, like, because that's so
Yeah.
important to acknowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, we all live in the,
Exactly.
you know, and again, I am white, I'm cis, I'm, you know, like that kind of stuff where it's like, I'm aware of that. But when people tell you, oh, well, you could have it so much worse, or, oh, I went through this, we're trying to play the, like, up, like, trying to pity up.
But like
What the hell, what's wrong with that?
I know that I've personally like had thoughts. It's mostly been like pretty recently of like, oh, like there's so much bad in the world. Like why am I worrying about this one thing so consistently? And like why am I always complaining about it?
Yeah.
And there's so much going on in the world. And like I feel like that's degrading myself just as like a person because I'm like,
It's
wow,
like,
I'm not worth the struggle.
Your
like,
problems are so valid.
They
and
are.
it's like
Oh.
it takes like a lot to like.
They
Yeah,
are.
everyone.
Valid.
So like. And so like it's taken a lot to like pull myself out of that
Yeah.
mindset of like my problems don't matter.
And that can be really hard to do.
Yeah.
Because
And obviously like especially when I am sad or stressed out about something, the thoughts come back of
right.
why am I stressed out about this? I don't need to be like there's so many people who are homeless
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we'll get into that in later episodes.
Later.
But like
yeah, one of my biggest things, like the reason, like my family and I decided I was like I want to go to therapy is because, you know, like occasionally like I screw something up, like I do something like wrong on the homework, or like I forget, like I forgot this notebook on the as I was driving here, and I was like, shoot, gosh darn it, dang.
Like,
I was like, are you kidding me?
Is that
Like,
really what you said?
it made it seem like you did. Maybe, but I was like, are you serious? Like, I forgot that. How stupid am I? Like, how idiotic is that? And it's like,
No, you're human.
it's like I have
Yeah.
I have to reshape my thinking
and
sometimes
I
to
have
be
those
like,
thoughts so many times,
Yeah.
especially okay, I noticed this so many times like being an actress. I compare myself to people
Oh yeah.
all the time.
It's
Like every
so
single time I'm at
bad.
auditions, I'm like, they
Yes.
can sing so well. Like, why can't I sing like that? And
It's one of the hardest parts of being an actor, I think, is like
You're
when you
turned
take
down.
the rejection and like
Yeah.
learning that it's not personal.
Yeah.
It's just you weren't the right fit for the role.
Yeah.
And
that's
that's
what it's like, it's not
okay.
that's
And I
where
also
casting
noticed
is so wild.
And I also
Yeah.
notice it a lot, like in rehearsals, when I can't get like a combination
Yeah.
correctly, or when I
Yeah.
can't like memorize this one line.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
why am I
And I'm like,
so
why am I so stupid? Like these people can do it, why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And like,
And that's
it's
so
taken-
unhealthy.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so unhealthy because every person is so individual. Everyone is so different. Why do we feel the need to compare ourselves when we
Yeah.
are so like you're all so amazing. I'm sure you're great.
Oh my gosh.
You guys,
Okay,
we love
I
you.
love everyone.
But you know what will love you even more is to subscribe below. Okay, anyway,
Got 'em.
continue.
Okay.
But,
It's just so important, and because I know I struggle with comparing myself constantly. I'm like, wow, that was stupid. We have to like reshape that thinking to remind ourselves that we are valid
And that brings
because we
up social
so
media again.
are.
Yeah,
That
for
brings
social
up
media,
social media again,
comparison
'cause
with
it's
that
like-
kind of stuff.
And so many of like the magazines you see nowadays, and this has been proven on many different platforms of like these famous people, these celebrities are still edited.
right.
They're still like their skin is
It's not
not smoothed
everything's
out.
real.
They're still like slimmed down. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so the fact that we have as a society created this image of a perfect woman or a perfect man, because
Men go through, that's another thing too.
Yeah.
Men go through this, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
No.
but people take men's mental illness so much
It's
less
so
seriously.
It's so relevant.
Men,
because
isn't it like suicide in men like
They're
it's
higher.
more between like
They're higher.
18 to like 25 or something is like the
Yeah.
like highest.
Which is devastating because that's
Yeah.
like some of the most important years, I think.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like becoming
Yeah.
who you are. And, like,
Exactly.
And if
learning
you're a
all
man
that
watching
It's
this,
so hard.
you have emotions, show them.
shit. They have feelings and they are
It's
relevant.
so
Yes.
valid.
And I learned in my psychology class that men like biologically like censor their feelings more and have
And that's
express them less.
That's where like toxic masculinity comes in. Because
Yeah.
masculinity, if you're masculine, great, good for you. But they're like when it's toxic and it's like boys don't cry. It's like no.
But that
Everyone
yes,
cries.
and that's a gender
Everyone
role.
cries.
That's a
Which we'll
gender role.
Look into later.
We'll get into
But,
next
like,
episode, kind of.
Maybe. Stay
We'll
tuned. So like I think one of the most important things is that we should treat mental injuries as just as important as physical injuries.
Oh,
Yes.
100%. And if okay, I know that, I don't know about everyone else, but I know for me, like, if any of, like, viewers, anyone, oh my goodness, could be good. Okay, so any viewers who ever needed help or need anything, come talk to one of us, because I know that I at least will be so open to that and will love to help anyone.
Also go to therapy,
will help.
highly recommend.
Yes, just reach out to anyone. Like, once you start the conversation,
your feelings are
really
valid.
not as hard as it seems. Like, to start talking.